Welcome to 3 hours of Patrick Star lore to sleep to. Yes, you read that title correctly, and yes, you clicked on exactly the right video tonight. As you settle in, perhaps adjusting your pillow or pulling your blanket just a bit closer, know that you have chosen to embark on the most comprehensive, most soothing journey through the surprisingly deep world of one Patrick Star, this pink starfish, this resident of Bikini Bottom, this best friend extraordinaire, has more stories, more history, and more gentle mysteries than you might have ever imagined. So close your eyes if you wish, let your breathing slow, and allow yourself to drift into the warm, underwater world where simplicity meets profundity, where a rock becomes a home, and where friendship knows no bounds. Under the sea, beneath the waves, below the surface of our everyday concerns, there exists a place called Bikini Bottom. And in this underwater paradise, underneath a rock that seems almost too perfectly placed to be accidental, lives Patrick Star. His home, if we can call it that, though home feels like exactly the right word, sits just 2 doors down from a pineapple which belongs to his very best friend in the entire ocean. But we are getting ahead of ourselves. Let us start with the rock itself. This seemingly simple boulder that has become one of the most iconic residences in all of animation history. The rock that Patrick calls home is not just any rock. No, this particular stone has been shaped by countless years of ocean currents, worn smooth in some places while maintaining rough edges in others. It sits firmly on the sandy ocean floor, having found its resting place long before Patrick ever discovered it could be lifted, could be entered, could become the perfect dwelling for someone who values simplicity above all else. The underside of this rock, where Patrick has made his living space, defies conventional understanding of geology and architecture. It opens into a furnished area complete with sand furniture, which Patrick crafts and recrafts with the patience of someone who has nowhere else to be and nothing more important to do. Patrick's relationship with his rock goes deeper than mere habitation. He speaks to it sometimes, in those quiet moments when even SpongeBob is busy at the Krusty Krab. He pats it gently when he returns from adventures, as if greeting an old friend who has patiently waited for his return. The rock never judges him, never tells him he is wrong, never suggests he should be anything other than exactly who he is. In this way, the rock serves not just as shelter, but as a reflection of Patrick's own steady, unchanging nature. Inside this rocky abode, Patrick has created a living space that would baffle interior designers, but makes perfect sense to him. His furniture, made entirely of sand, requires constant maintenance, yet Patrick never seems to mind. Each morning, or what passes for morning in his flexible schedule, he might reshape his television, smooth out his chair, or add another layer to his bed. This daily ritual of reconstruction serves as a form of meditation for Patrick, though he would never use such a fancy word to describe it. To him, it is simply what one does when one lives under a rock with sand furniture. The television, a central fixture in Patrick's underground home, deserves special attention in our narrative. Made entirely of sand like everything else, it somehow receives perfect reception despite being composed of the same material as the ocean floor. Patrick watches this sand television with the same rapt attention that others might give to the finest entertainment systems. The programs he watches seem to appear based on his mood, sometimes showing nothing but static that Patrick interprets as the most engaging drama, other times displaying actual shows from the Bikini Bottom Broadcasting Network. Patrick's approach to time within his rock home operates on a schedule entirely divorced from the conventional passage of hours and days. He sleeps when tired, which could be moments after waking or days into an adventure. He eats when hungry, though hunger for Patrick seems more like a suggestion than a necessity. His rock provides the perfect environment for this temporal flexibility, having no windows to show the passage of day into night, no clocks to mark the hours, no calendar to track the days. Time under Patrick's rock moves like honey, or perhaps like the slow drift of sand particles in a gentle current. The location of Patrick's rock, so close to SpongeBob's pineapple, is no accident of geography. These two homes, so different in appearance yet so similar in the contentment of their inhabitants, have been neighbors for as long as either resident can remember. The short distance between them has been traveled thousands of times, creating a path in the sand that reforms itself after every tide, yet somehow always remains visible to those who know where to look. This path represents one of the most important connections in Patrick's life, the physical manifestation of a friendship that defines much of who he is. But Patrick's world extends far beyond his rock, and to understand him fully, we must explore the mystery and history of the star family tree. The genealogy of the star family presents puzzles that would challenge even the most dedicated family historian. Patrick's parents, Herb and Margie Starr, appear in his life with the irregularity of comets, bringing with them confusion and revelation in equal measure. Herb Starr, Patrick's father, possesses the same pink complexion as his son, though his intelligence seems to fluctuate wildly depending on the situation. Sometimes he appears even less aware than Patrick. Other times he demonstrates a cunning that suggests the apple, or in this case the starfish, might not have fallen far from the tree. Margie Starr, Patrick's mother, brings her own mysteries to the family dynamic. She carries herself with a dignity that seems at odds with the general Starr family demeanor, yet she never seems embarrassed by her son's unconventional lifestyle. Her visits to Patrick's Rock are events that disrupt the normal flow of Bikini Bottom life, not through any dramatic action, but through the simple presence of someone who somehow produced Patrick, yet seems to exist in an entirely different reality. The question of Patrick's siblings adds another layer to the family mystery. His sister, Sam Starr, stands as living proof that Patrick might actually be the more refined member of his generation. Sam's size alone sets her apart, being considerably larger than Patrick, but her approach to life makes Patrick seem like a diplomat. Where Patrick bumbles through life with good intentions, Sam crashes through it with the force of an underwater avalanche. Her visits to Bikini Bottom are remembered long after she leaves, usually because something needs to be rebuilt or repaired. The extended Starr family tree branches into areas that defy conventional understanding. Patrick has claimed various relatives over the years, some who appear to verify his claims, others who exist only in his possibly false memories. There was the time he believed he was related to royalty, which turned out to be true in the most unexpected way. The discovery that he was technically a king, even temporarily, added a chapter to the Starr family history that no one could have predicted. Patrick's royal heritage, brief though his reign was, deserves careful examination. The kingdom he inherited existed in a state of perpetual simplicity, which suited Patrick perfectly. His approach to ruling involved making decisions based on what seemed fun at the moment, implementing laws that made sense only to him, and treating his subjects with the same casual friendliness he showed to everyone. His royal decrees included things like mandatory nap times and the outlawing of anything that seemed too complicated. The kingdom thrived under his rule, not despite his simplicity, but because of it. The abdication of his throne came as naturally to Patrick as accepting it had been. When the time came to choose between royal responsibility and his simple life under the rock, Patrick chose his rock without hesitation. The decision revealed something profound about Patrick's character. He values his freedom, his friendship with SpongeBob, and his uncomplicated existence more than power or prestige. The kingdom continued without him, perhaps a little less interesting, but certainly more conventional. Understanding Patrick's family helps us understand Patrick himself, but the true core of his existence lies in his friendship with SpongeBob SquarePants. presence. This friendship, which forms the emotional center of both their lives, began in a way that seemed destined by the very currents of the ocean itself. The story of their first meeting has been told different ways at different times, but the essence remains consistent. Two young sea creatures, different in species but identical in spirit, found in each other the perfect complement to their own personalities. SpongeBob brought enthusiasm and ambition to the friendship, always ready with a new plan or adventure. Patrick brought a grounding presence, a willingness to go along with any scheme while somehow making it seem both more ridiculous and more meaningful. Together, they created a dynamic that transcended the usual boundaries of friendship. They became partners in a way that made their individual identities inseparable from their shared experiences. The depth of their friendship reveals itself not in grand gestures but in small moments. The way Patrick always answers when SpongeBob calls, regardless of what he might be doing. The way SpongeBob never criticizes Patrick's lack of conventional intelligence, seeing instead a different kind of wisdom. The way they sit together in silence, comfortable in each other's presence without need for constant conversation. These moments, multiplied by countless days and adventures, create a bond that defines both of them. Their shared adventures have taken them across the ocean and beyond. They have traveled through time, journeyed to the surface world, explored dimensions that should not exist, and survived situations that would have separated lesser friends. Through each adventure, their friendship not only endures but strengthens. Every challenge becomes a shared memory, every victory a mutual accomplishment, every failure a lesson learned together. The beauty of their friendship lies partly in its inequality. SpongeBob works at the Krusty Krab, earning money and contributing to society in conventional ways. Patrick does nothing that could be called productive in traditional terms. Yet SpongeBob never resents this imbalance, never suggests Patrick should get a job or change his ways. He accepts Patrick exactly as he is, finding value in his presence rather than his productivity. This acceptance goes both ways. Patrick never feels inferior to SpongeBob despite his friend's relative success, never experiences jealousy over SpongeBob's job or his ability to navigate social situations more effectively. Their friendship has survived tests that would destroy most relationships. They have been angry with each other, have competed against each other, have even briefly ended their friendship over trivial matters. Yet they always find their way back to each other, drawn by a force stronger than any disagreement. These reconciliations never require grand apologies or elaborate explanations. Usually, they simply appear at each other's door, ready to continue as if nothing had happened, because in the grand scheme of their friendship, nothing really had. Patrick's role in SpongeBob's life extends beyond simple companionship. He serves as a reality check, though not in the conventional sense. When SpongeBob becomes too caught up in rules or responsibilities, Patrick reminds him that life can be simpler. When SpongeBob's enthusiasm threatens to overwhelm him, Patrick's steady presence provides balance. When SpongeBob needs someone to share his joy or his sorrow, Patrick is there, not always understanding, but always present. Conversely, SpongeBob brings light into Patrick's life in ways that Patrick might not even recognize. He provides structure to Patrick's formless days, purpose to his aimless existence, excitement to his otherwise static world. Without SpongeBob, Patrick would still be Patrick, but he would be a diminished version of himself, like a star whose light has dimmed. With SpongeBob, Patrick shines with a brightness that illuminates not just his own life, but the lives of everyone around them. The physical dynamics of their friendship deserve attention as well. The way they move together, SpongeBob's square form complementing Patrick's star shape, creates a visual harmony that reflects their emotional connection. They fit together like puzzle pieces designed by someone who understood that different shapes can create a perfect whole. When they walk side by side, SpongeBob's energetic gait matched by Patrick's lumber, they create a rhythm that is uniquely theirs. Their communication transcends words. They have developed a language of gestures, expressions, and sounds that conveys meaning more effectively than conventional speech. A particular laugh from SpongeBob tells Patrick everything he needs to know about his friend's mood. A specific grunt from Patrick communicates volumes to SpongeBob about his friend's thoughts, or lack thereof. This nonverbal understanding represents an evolution of their friendship, a deepening that comes only from countless hours spent in each other's company. But Patrick is more than just SpongeBob's best friend, and to understand him fully, we must examine those moments when he displays unexpected brilliance. These flashes of intelligence appear without warning, like lightning in a calm sky, illuminating aspects of Patrick's character that remain hidden most of the time. During these moments, Patrick demonstrates knowledge and wisdom that seems impossible given his usual demeanor. He solves complex problems with elegant solutions, makes observations that cut to the heart of matters that confuse others, and displays an understanding of the world that suggests depths beneath his simple surface. The temporary nature of these intelligent moments makes them more intriguing. Patrick never seems to notice when he has said something profound or solved something complex. The brilliance passes through him like water through a sieve, leaving no lasting impression on his consciousness. He returns to his usual state without any awareness that he has briefly been something more. This pattern suggests that intelligence, for Patrick, is not something he lacks, but something he chooses not to retain. One theory about Patrick's intelligence suggests that his simplicity is actually a choice, a philosophical stance against the complications of modern life. According to this interpretation, Patrick has achieved a level of wisdom that transcends conventional intelligence. He has realized that knowing things, remembering things, and thinking about things often brings more suffering than joy. By choosing to forget, to not know, to not think too deeply, Patrick has freed himself from the burdens that weigh down others. This theory gains support from Patrick's general contentment. Despite having no job, no money, and no conventional achievements, Patrick seems genuinely happy most of the time. He does not experience the anxiety that plagues Squidward, the greed that drives Mr. Krabs, or even the occasional insecurity that affects SpongeBob. His ignorance, if we can call it that, serves as a shield against the dissatisfactions that define so many lives. Another perspective on Patrick's intelligence suggests that his brain operates on a different frequency than others. Like a radio tuned to a station that only broadcasts occasionally, Patrick receives signals of brilliance at random intervals. These signals come through clearly but briefly, allowing him moments of perfect understanding before the frequency shifts and he returns to static. This would explain why his intelligence seems so random, why he cannot summon it at will, and why he never seems to learn from his brilliant moments. The content of Patrick's intelligent observations often reveals an understanding of fundamental truths that escape others. He once observed that the inner machinations of his mind are an enigma, a statement that acknowledges the mystery of consciousness itself. He has made comments about the nature of reality, the meaning of existence, and the purpose of life that philosophers would spend careers analyzing. Yet he makes these observations casually, without any sense of their profundity. These moments of brilliance extend to practical matters as well. Patrick has occasionally demonstrated complex problem-solving abilities, fixing things that stumped others, finding solutions that eluded even Sandy's scientific approach. During these times, his hands move with purpose and precision, his eyes focus with clarity, and his whole being seems to transform into someone capable of anything. Then, as suddenly as it arrived, the competence vanishes, leaving Patrick staring at his hands as if wondering what they just did. The relationship between Patrick's intelligence and his emotional state presents another fascinating aspect of his character. His brilliant moments often coincide with times of deep relaxation or complete lack of self-consciousness. When Patrick is not trying to think, when he is simply being, his mind sometimes produces insights that would be impossible if he were actively attempting to be smart. This suggests that Patrick's usual state of not thinking might actually be a form of meditation that occasionally produces enlightenment. Patrick's approach to knowledge itself differs fundamentally from conventional understanding. While others accumulate facts and memories like possessions, Patrick treats knowledge like a temporary visitor. It arrives, serves its purpose, and departs without leaving any residue. This approach protects him from the burden of remembering mistakes, the weight of accumulated failures, and the paralysis that can come from knowing too much. Every day, Patrick wakes up free from the accumulated knowledge that both enriches and constrains others. The question of whether Patrick could choose to be consistently intelligent remains unanswered and perhaps unanswerable. There have been moments when external forces have temporarily increased his intelligence, and during these times, Patrick has shown discomfort with his enhanced mental capacity. He finds thinking exhausting, knowledge burdensome, and intelligence isolating. When given the choice, he always returns to his natural state, suggesting that his simplicity brings him more satisfaction than brilliance ever could. Patrick's temporary jobs and various roles throughout his life provide another lens through which to understand his character. Despite having no regular employment, Patrick has held numerous positions, each revealing different aspects of his personality and capabilities. His approach to work, when he occasionally engages in it, demonstrates the same combination of enthusiasm and incompetence that characterizes much of his life. His stint at the Krusty Krab represents one of his most notable employment experiences. Hired temporarily when extra help was needed, Patrick approached the job with an interpretation of customer service that was entirely his own. He treated customers with a bizarre mixture of aggression and indifference, somehow believing that this was what the job required. His understanding of taking orders involved literal interpretation that led to chaos, yet he performed his duties with a conviction that suggested he believed he was excelling. The fascinating aspect of Patrick's employment at the Krusty Krab was not his incompetence, but his complete confidence despite that incompetence. He never doubted his abilities, never questioned his methods, never wondered if perhaps he was doing something wrong. This absolute self-assurance in the face of obvious failure represents a form of confidence that most people could never achieve. Patrick's immunity to self-doubt allows him to attempt things that others would never dare try. His time as a king has already been mentioned, but his approach to leadership deserves further exploration. Patrick's royal duties included making decisions that affected an entire kingdom, yet he made these decisions with the same casual attitude he brought to choosing which side of his rock to sleep on. He implemented policies based on personal preference rather than public good, yet somehow his kingdom did not collapse. This suggests either remarkable luck or an intuitive understanding of leadership that transcended conventional wisdom. Patrick has also served as a temporary replacement for various roles around Bikini Bottom. He has been a substitute teacher, imparting lessons that made no conventional sense but somehow left students oddly inspired. He has been a tour guide, leading visitors through paths that existed only in his imagination, but which they found surprisingly satisfying. He has been a security guard, protecting things through his mere presence rather than any actual security measures. Each of these roles revealed Patrick's unique approach to responsibility. He takes every job seriously in his own way, which often has nothing to do with how the job is supposed to be done. He creates his own understanding of what each position requires, and then fulfills that understanding with complete commitment. The results are usually disastrous by conventional standards, but occasionally produce unexpected benefits that no one could have anticipated. Patrick's brief career as an artist deserves special mention. When he discovered he could create art, he approached it with the same lack of conventional understanding that he brings to everything. His art made no sense to critics or audiences, yet it possessed a raw honesty that more sophisticated artists could never achieve. He created without intention, without meaning, without any goal beyond the act of creation itself. In this way, his art achieved a purity that intentional artists spent careers trying to capture. The pattern across all of Patrick's temporary employment reveals someone who exists outside the conventional economy. He works not for money, though he occasionally receives it, not for achievement, though he sometimes stumbles into it, but simply because something has captured his momentary interest. When that interest fades, he leaves the job without regret or backward glance, returning to his life under the rock as if the employment had been a dream. Patrick's relationship with money itself defies conventional understanding. He has no regular income, no savings that anyone knows of, yet he never seems to lack for anything he truly needs. Money appears in his life when necessary and disappears just as quickly, following patterns that economists would find impossible. He once received a large sum and immediately forgot about it, leaving it to wash away with the tide. Another time, he found exactly the amount he needed at exactly the moment he needed it, as if the universe itself ensures he has what he requires. This casual relationship with currency extends to his understanding of value. Patrick treasures things that others would consider worthless, like a particular grain of sand or a specific bubble, while showing complete indifference to things of conventional value. He once traded away something precious for something mundane, because the mundane thing seemed more interesting at that moment. This approach to value suggests Patrick operates on an entirely different economic system, one based on momentary interest rather than lasting worth. Patrick's various roles have also included being an inventor, though his inventions follow no known principles of science or engineering. He has created things that should not work but somehow do, and things that should work but absolutely do not. His inventions seem to operate on principles of wishful thinking rather than physics, yet occasionally they achieve their intended purpose through means that remain mysterious. Sandy, despite her scientific knowledge, has sometimes been unable to explain how Patrick's inventions function, suggesting they operate outside conventional understanding. The temporary nature of all Patrick's roles reveals something fundamental about his character. He is not defined by what he does, but by who he is. While others build identities around their careers, Patrick remains essentially himself regardless of what hat he happens to be wearing. This consistency of self, maintained across all his various temporary positions, represents a form of integrity that many people never achieve. Moving beyond Patrick's professional life, we must examine his relationships with other residents of Bikini Bottom. His interaction with Squidward presents one of the most complex dynamics in his social world. To Patrick, Squidward is simply another neighbor, someone to include in adventures and activities. Patrick seems genuinely oblivious to Squidward's irritation, interpreting his angry responses as a form of participation rather than rejection. The fascinating aspect of Patrick's relationship with Squidward lies in its complete asymmetry. While Squidward experiences Patrick as a source of constant annoyance, Patrick experiences Squidward as just another part of his pleasant world. He invites Squidward to join activities with genuine enthusiasm, never learning from the countless rejections. This inability or unwillingness to recognize Squidward's true feelings might seem cruel, but in Patrick's case, it stems from a genuine inability to conceive that anyone would not want to have fun. Patrick's interpretation of Squidward's behavior reveals his unique understanding of social cues. When Squidward yells, Patrick hears enthusiasm. When Squidward slams his door, Patrick interprets it as playing hard to get. When Squidward explicitly tells Patrick to leave him alone, Patrick hears an invitation to try harder. This complete misreading of social signals would be problematic if it came from manipulation, but Patrick's misunderstanding is so genuine that it becomes almost endearing. There have been rare moments when Patrick and Squidward have found themselves aligned, usually against some common problem or enemy. During these times, Squidward has glimpsed the potential value of Patrick's simple approach to life. These moments never last, as Squidward's fundamental nature reasserts itself, but they suggest that Patrick's presence in Squidward's life might serve a purpose beyond mere annoyance. Patrick represents everything Squidward has rejected: spontaneity, simplicity, and satisfaction with life as it is. Patrick's relationship with Sandy Cheeks operates on an entirely different level. Sandy's intelligence and scientific approach to life should make her and Patrick incompatible, yet they manage to interact with surprising effectiveness. Sandy seems to recognize that Patrick operates outside conventional logic and has stopped trying to apply scientific principles to understand him. Instead, she treats him as a force of nature, unpredictable but not malicious. The interactions between Patrick and Sandy often involve her trying to explain something scientific, while Patrick provides interpretations that have nothing to do with science but occasionally offer unexpected insights. Sandy has learned to listen to Patrick's nonsensical observations because buried within them are sometimes perspectives she would never have considered. His complete lack of scientific training allows him to ask questions that someone with knowledge would never think to ask. Patrick's immunity to conventional learning has frustrated and fascinated Sandy in equal measure. She has tried to teach him basic scientific principles, only to watch him forget them immediately or transform them into something unrecognizable. Yet his presence in her experiments, while usually disruptive, sometimes produces results that her careful methodology would never have achieved. Patrick serves as a random element in Sandy's ordered world, introducing chaos that occasionally leads to breakthrough. The respect between Patrick and Sandy, though expressed differently by each, is genuine. Sandy respects Patrick's ability to remain himself regardless of circumstances. Patrick respects Sandy's big words and complicated machines, even if he has no idea what they mean or do. Their friendship works because neither tries to change the other, accepting their fundamental differences as simply part of who they are. Patrick's relationship with Mr. Krabs reveals another dimension of his social world. To Patrick, Mr. Krabs is SpongeBob's boss, a figure of authority who deserves respect even if Patrick has no idea what that respect should look like. His interactions with Mr. Krabs often involve Patrick trying to be helpful in ways that cost Mr. Krabs money, yet doing so with such genuine good intention that even the greedy crab cannot remain angry for long. Mr. Krabs, for his part, views Patrick with a mixture of bewilderment and occasional fondness. He recognizes that Patrick poses no intentional threat to his business, even when Patrick's actions result in financial loss. There is something about Patrick's complete lack of greed that both puzzles and oddly touches Mr. Krabs. In Patrick, he sees someone who has achieved freedom from the very desire that drives Mr. Krabs's entire existence. Patrick's understanding of business and money, as demonstrated in his interactions with Mr. Krabs, operates on principles that would bankrupt any normal establishment. He once suggested giving away food to make customers happy, not understanding that this would destroy the business model. He has offered to work for free, not as a gesture of generosity, but because he forgot that work usually involves payment. His presence in the Krusty Krab creates a temporary suspension of normal economic laws. The relationship between Patrick and Plankton presents yet another fascinating dynamic. Plankton has occasionally tried to use Patrick as part of his schemes to steal the Krabby Patty formula, but Patrick's unpredictability makes him an unreliable ally. Patrick has helped Plankton without realizing it, hindered him while trying to help, and sometimes done both simultaneously. His inability to maintain focus on any plan for more than a few moments makes him essentially useless for Plankton's purposes. Yet Plankton continues to occasionally involve Patrick in his schemes, perhaps because Patrick is one of the few beings in Bikini Bottom who does not actively oppose him. Patrick treats Plankton with the same friendly indifference he shows to everyone, neither fearing his villainous reputation nor judging his evil intentions. To Patrick, Plankton is just another small friend, someone to wave to when passing by. Patrick's interactions with Gary, SpongeBob's pet snail, deserve special attention. Patrick and Gary share a unique form of communication that bypasses language entirely. They seem to understand each other on a level that even SpongeBob sometimes cannot access. Patrick treats Gary as an intellectual equal, which, given Patrick's usual level of functioning, might not be far from the truth. Their conversations, conducted entirely in meows and grunts, apparently convey complex ideas that neither feels the need to translate. The broader Bikini Bottom community has developed a collective understanding of Patrick that allows him to exist within society despite contributing almost nothing in conventional terms. Shop owners know that Patrick might wander in, forget why he came, and leave without buying anything, yet they tolerate his presence. Other residents have learned to work around Patrick rather than with him, creating a Patrick-shaped space in their daily routines. This acceptance by the community reveals something important about Bikini Bottom itself. It is a place where someone like Patrick can exist without being forced to conform. No one insists that he get a job, find a purpose, or contribute to society in traditional ways. His presence is accepted as part of the natural order, like the tides or the bubbles that float constantly upward. In this acceptance, Bikini Bottom demonstrates a form of tolerance that many communities could learn from. Patrick's role in major events in Bikini Bottom often involves him being simultaneously central and peripheral. He participates in important moments but rarely understands their importance. He has been present for historic occasions, witnessed significant changes, and contributed to major decisions, all while remaining blissfully unaware of the gravity of these situations. His presence adds an element of absurdity to serious moments that somehow makes them more meaningful. The way Patrick navigates social situations deserves examination. He does not follow conventional social rules because he does not know they exist. He stands too close, speaks too loudly, and stays too long, yet does so without any awareness that these behaviors might be inappropriate. His social interactions are governed by a single principle. If he is enjoying himself, everyone else must be too. This projection of his own contentment onto others creates a social bubble around Patrick where normal rules temporarily cease to apply. Patrick's eating habits and relationship with food provide another window into his character. He consumes food with an enthusiasm that transcends mere hunger. For Patrick, eating is not about nutrition or even taste, but about the pure experience of consumption. He eats things that should not be edible, combines foods in ways that should not work, and somehow survives on a diet that would destroy anyone else. His stomach seems to operate on the same mysterious principles as his brain, processing inputs in ways that defy scientific understanding. The famous ice cream cone that Patrick often carries has become almost symbolic of his character. He licks it with the dedication of someone performing a sacred ritual, yet frequently forgets he is holding it, allowing it to melt over his hand without notice. The ice cream represents Patrick's relationship with pleasure, intense in the moment but quickly forgotten, leaving only sticky residue that he does not bother to clean. Patrick's approach to hygiene and personal care reflects his general philosophy of life. He bathes when he remembers to, which is not often, yet somehow never seems particularly dirty. His body appears to be self-maintaining, requiring little care beyond basic existence. He does not brush his teeth, yet they remain present. He does not groom himself, yet maintains his distinctive appearance. His physical form seems to exist in a state of equilibrium that requires no effort to maintain. Sleep occupies a special place in Patrick's existence. He can sleep anywhere, in any position, for any length of time. His ability to fall asleep instantly and wake up just as quickly suggests a relationship with consciousness that differs from normal experience. When Patrick sleeps, he seems to cease existing entirely, entering a void state from which he emerges with no sense of time having passed. His dreams, when he remembers them, involve scenarios that make his waking life seem logical by comparison. The question of Patrick's age and how he has developed over time presents interesting puzzles. He seems neither young nor old, existing in a permanent state of ageless presence. Stories of his childhood suggest he has always been essentially the same, neither maturing nor regressing but simply continuing. His memories of the past are unreliable, sometimes contradicting each other, sometimes contradicting observable reality, yet he presents them all with equal confidence. Patrick's concept of time differs fundamentally from conventional understanding. He does not distinguish clearly between yesterday and last year, between an hour and a day. Events in his memory exist in a soup of temporal confusion where sequence has no meaning. He might refer to something that happened this morning as occurring long ago, or treat ancient history as recent news. This temporal confusion protects him from regret about the past or anxiety about the future, allowing him to exist entirely in a present that extends indefinitely in all directions. The way Patrick processes information deserves careful consideration. Facts enter his consciousness but undergo transformation that renders them unrecognizable. He might hear that something is dangerous and interpret this as meaning it is exciting. He might be told something is important and immediately forget it because important things seem complicated. His brain appears to have a filter that removes anything that might cause stress or require sustained thought. Patrick's problem-solving methods follow no known logical system. When faced with a challenge, he might try to eat it, sit on it, or ignore it until it goes away. Sometimes these approaches work, not because they should, but because Patrick's reality seems to bend to accommodate his methods. A problem that would require careful thought from others might resolve itself simply because Patrick does not recognize it as a problem. His understanding of cause and effect operates on principles that physicists would find fascinating. Patrick seems to believe that correlation implies causation, but only when it suits him. He might decide that wearing a particular sock caused good things to happen and refuse to remove it for weeks. Then, forgetting his own superstition, he might lose the sock and never notice its absence. His world is full of false connections and missed actual connections, creating a personal mythology that makes sense only to him. Patrick's relationship with technology reveals his fundamental incompatibility with modern life. Machines break in his presence, not through misuse but through a sort of technological confusion. Computers malfunction, phones refuse to work, and simple appliances develop problems that repair technicians cannot explain. It is as if technology recognizes Patrick as operating on different principles and refuses to cooperate with him. Yet Patrick shows no frustration with his technological failures. When something does not work, he simply moves on to something else. He does not need technology because he does not perceive any lack in his life that technology could fill. His existence under his rock with his sand furniture and impossible television provides everything he needs. The modern world's solutions to problems Patrick does not have hold no appeal for him. The subject of Patrick's fears and what frightens him opens another avenue of understanding. Patrick experiences fear, but not in ways that make conventional sense. He might be terrified of something harmless, like a butterfly, while showing no concern about genuine dangers. His fears seem randomly assigned, following no pattern of logic or self-preservation. This random distribution of fear prevents anxiety from controlling his life the way it does for others. When Patrick does experience fear, his response is usually to freeze in place or run in a random direction. He does not plan escape routes or consider consequences. His fear response is pure and immediate, like an animal's, uncomplicated by thoughts of what might happen next. Once the immediate stimulus is gone, so is the fear, leaving no lasting trauma or learned avoidance. Patrick cannot be conditioned by fear because he does not remember it long enough to form patterns. His relationship with pain follows similar patterns. Patrick experiences physical discomfort but seems to forget it almost immediately. He might injure himself and cry out, then moments later wonder why he yelled. This inability to learn from pain should make survival impossible, yet Patrick continues to exist, protected perhaps by the same forces that allow his sand furniture to function. His body seems remarkably resilient, healing from injuries that would incapacitate others. Patrick's understanding of his own mortality, if he has any, remains unclear. He does not seem to fear death or even comprehend it as a possibility. When faced with life-threatening situations, he shows the same casual attitude he brings to everything else. This is not bravery, which requires understanding danger and choosing to face it anyway. Patrick's fearlessness comes from a fundamental inability to process threat in meaningful ways. The question of what Patrick wants from life, his goals and aspirations, leads to interesting contemplation. Patrick seems to want nothing beyond what he has at any given moment. He does not dream of fame, fortune, or achievement. His desires are immediate and simple: fun with SpongeBob, something to eat, a comfortable place to sleep. Once these basic needs are met, Patrick appears completely satisfied, requiring nothing more from existence. This absence of ambition would be depressing in someone who felt lacking, but Patrick shows no signs of dissatisfaction. He has achieved something that eludes most beings: complete contentment with his current state. He does not compare himself to others, does not measure his worth by external standards, does not feel pressure to become something more than what he is. In this way, Patrick has solved problems that torment philosophers and ordinary people alike. His lack of ambition extends to all areas of life. Patrick does not want to be smarter even when his ignorance causes problems. He does not want to be richer even when he has no money. He does not want to be more attractive, more successful, or more anything. He exists in a state of perfect self-acceptance that most people spend lifetimes trying to achieve through therapy, meditation, or spiritual practice. Patrick achieves it by simply not thinking about it. The way Patrick experiences joy deserves special attention. His happiness is pure and uncomplicated, arising from simple stimuli that would barely register for others. A bubble floating by can fill him with delight. Finding a penny brings him satisfaction out of proportion to its value. Playing with SpongeBob generates a joy so intense it seems to radiate from his entire being. These moments of happiness are not diminished by repetition. Patrick can experience the same simple pleasure thousands of times without it losing its impact. His joy is also highly contagious. When Patrick is truly happy, which is often, his happiness affects everyone around him. Even Squidward, in his perpetual grumpiness, sometimes finds himself slightly less miserable in the presence of Patrick's pure delight. This infectious quality of Patrick's happiness suggests it operates on a frequency that bypasses conscious resistance, affecting others at a level deeper than thought. Patrick's sadness, when it occurs, is equally pure. He does not experience complex emotions like melancholy or ennui. When Patrick is sad, he is completely sad, usually about something immediate and specific. His friend is gone, his ice cream fell, his rock is temporarily missing. These sadnesses consume him entirely in the moment, but pass quickly, leaving no residual depression. Patrick cannot maintain sadness because it requires a form of mental continuity he does not possess. The relationship between Patrick and nature reveals another aspect of his character. He exists in harmony with his environment in ways that even other sea creatures do not achieve. Jellyfish do not sting him with the same frequency they sting others. Seaweed seems to part for him as he walks. The sand beneath his rock remains stable despite currents that should disperse it. It is as if nature recognizes Patrick as operating on its own principles rather than those of civilization and treats him accordingly. Patrick's interaction with jellyfish particularly stands out. While others must be careful around these creatures, Patrick handles them with casual indifference to their danger. He has been stung countless times but never develops the caution that would normally result. His jellyfishing technique, if it can be called that, involves random waving of his net with no strategy or skill, yet he sometimes catches jellyfish that elude more careful hunters. The jellyfish seem to accept Patrick as a fellow force of nature rather than a threat. His understanding of weather and natural phenomena follows predictable patterns of unpredictability. Patrick might announce that it is raining while standing in sunshine, or fail to notice an actual storm raging around him. He interprets natural events through a lens so distorted that his observations become a form of poetry. A simple tide becomes an ocean breathing, bubbles become the sea laughing. His descriptions make no scientific sense but capture something essential about the experience of living underwater. The way Patrick moves through water deserves consideration. Despite his star shape, which should make swimming awkward, Patrick navigates the ocean with surprising grace when he chooses to swim at all. More often, he walks along the bottom, his weight keeping him grounded while others float and swim above. This preference for walking even in an aquatic environment speaks to Patrick's fundamental groundedness. His connection to solid things, despite living in a fluid medium. Patrick's relationship with his own body presents fascinating contradictions. He seems barely aware he has a body most of the time, bumping into things without noticing, injuring himself without realizing. Yet his body performs remarkable feats when necessary. He can lift objects that should be too heavy, stretch in ways that should be impossible, and survive impacts that should be fatal. His physical form seems to operate independently of his consciousness, maintaining and protecting itself without his input. The question of Patrick's internal organs, if he has any in the conventional sense, remains a mystery. He eats but shows no signs of normal digestion. He breathes, presumably, but never seems to need air even in situations where he should. His body appears to be more of a suggestion than a fixed physical form, capable of adjusting to whatever situation he finds himself in. This malleability of form reflects the malleability of his mind, both existing in states of constant potential rather than fixed actuality. Patrick's voice and the way he speaks provide clues to his inner nature. His slow, deep way of talking suggests thoughts that form slowly and dissipate quickly. He often pauses mid-sentence, not for effect, but because he has forgotten what he was saying. His vocabulary is limited, but he uses his few words with a poetry that more articulate speakers rarely achieve. When Patrick says something is fun or good or nice, he imbues these simple words with a sincerity that makes them profound. When Patrick tells stories himself, they follow no conventional narrative structure. He begins in the middle, jumps to the end, circles back to something that might be the beginning, and often forgets what story he was telling halfway through. His stories include impossible events presented as fact and mundane occurrences treated as miraculous. Listening to Patrick tell a story requires abandoning expectation of coherence and simply experiencing the journey through his confused but enthusiastic narrative. Patrick's relationship with holidays and celebrations demonstrates his ability to find joy in ritual without understanding meaning. He celebrates holidays with enthusiasm that has nothing to do with their actual significance. He might celebrate Christmas in July because he found a piece of tinsel, or ignore the actual holiday because he forgot it was happening. His celebrations are pure expressions of celebratory feeling divorced from any particular cause for celebration. The costumes Patrick wears during various celebrations deserve mention. He assembles outfits that make no conventional sense, combining elements from different holidays, different contexts, or simply different realities. He might wear a Halloween costume to a birthday party, not as a joke, but because he likes the costume, and parties seem like good places to wear things you like. His costumes reflect his internal state rather than external expectations. Gift-giving with Patrick follows similarly unconventional patterns. He gives gifts that make sense only to him: a handful of sand because it felt nice, a used napkin because it had an interesting stain, nothing at all because the absence of something seemed like a special kind of present. He receives gifts with equal confusion, sometimes treasuring wrapping paper while discarding the actual gift, or forgetting he received anything moments after opening it. Patrick's understanding of special occasions extends to creating his own holidays and celebrations. He might declare a random Tuesday to be a special day for no reason other than feeling it should be special. These personal holidays involve rituals that Patrick invents on the spot and immediately forgets, making each celebration unique and unrepeatable. His ability to generate celebration from nothing represents a form of creative joy that most people lose in childhood. The way Patrick interacts with photographs and images of himself provides insight into his self-perception. He often does not recognize himself in pictures, treating his own image as that of a stranger. When he does recognize himself, he seems surprised, as if he had forgotten he existed in visible form. This disconnect between Patrick and his own image suggests a level of non-self-consciousness that most people cannot achieve even through years of spiritual practice. Patrick's mirror interactions, when they occur, are events of confusion and wonder. He treats his reflection as another being, sometimes trying to communicate with it, sometimes ignoring it entirely. He has been known to spend hours staring at his reflection, not from vanity, but from genuine puzzlement about who that other Patrick might be and why he mimics everything the real Patrick does. These mirror encounters suggest Patrick exists in a state of consciousness that does not include a fixed sense of self. His understanding of ownership and possession operates on principles that would dismay capitalists, but might interest philosophers. Patrick owns almost nothing, but also seems to believe he owns everything. He treats SpongeBob's possessions as his own, not from greed, but from a genuine confusion about the boundaries between self and other. Conversely, he shows no attachment to things that are actually his, allowing others to take them without protest or even notice. This fluid understanding of ownership extends to space and territory. While Patrick lives under his rock, he does not seem to conceive of it as exclusively his. Others can enter his space without invitation because Patrick does not understand the concept of invitation. His rock is his home when he is under it, but when he leaves, it becomes just another rock. This lack of territorial instinct makes Patrick unique, even among the generally friendly residents of Bikini Bottom. The question of Patrick's dreams and what happens in his unconscious mind opens fascinating avenues of speculation. His dreams, when he remembers them, which is rarely, seem to involve scenarios that make his waking life appear logical. He has described dreams about being smart, which terrified him, and dreams about being even simpler than he already is, which brought him peace. His unconscious mind seems to process reality through filters that further distort his already distorted perceptions. Patrick's nightmares, when they occur, involve things that would not frighten others: having a job, understanding mathematics, or remembering things permanently. These nightmares reveal what Patrick's mind considers threatening, anything that would force him to maintain continuous consciousness or sustained thought. His greatest fear seems to be becoming like everyone else, trapped in awareness of time, responsibility, and consequence. The way Patrick learns, or fails to learn, from experience deserves detailed examination. Most beings develop through a process of trial and error, adjusting behavior based on outcomes. Patrick seems immune to this process. He touches hot surfaces repeatedly without developing caution. He falls into the same holes without learning to avoid them. He makes the same mistakes with such consistency that they cease to be mistakes and become simply how Patrick does things. This inability to learn from experience protects Patrick from the accumulation of trauma and regret that shapes most lives. He cannot become cynical because cynicism requires remembering disappointment. He cannot become bitter because bitterness requires holding on to hurt. He cannot become wise in the conventional sense because wisdom requires accumulating and applying knowledge. Patrick exists in a state of perpetual innocence that experience cannot erode. Yet Patrick does change over time, just not in ways that follow normal developmental patterns. He might suddenly develop a fear of something he previously enjoyed, or lose interest in something that obsessed him without any apparent cause. These changes seem random, as if different aspects of Patrick's personality activate and deactivate without pattern or purpose. He is simultaneously always the same and constantly different, maintaining core Patrickness while shifting in unpredictable ways. His relationship with rules and laws demonstrates Patrick's fundamental inability to understand abstract authority. He does not break rules from rebellion, but from a complete failure to comprehend that rules exist. When confronted by authority figures, Patrick responds with the same friendly confusion he brings to all interactions. He cannot be intimidated by authority because he does not recognize it as different from any other form of interaction. Patrick has been arrested multiple times, usually alongside SpongeBob, but seems to experience jail as just another interesting place to visit. He does not understand punishment as connected to behavior, treating his time in jail as a random occurrence with no cause. Upon release, he shows neither relief nor any intention to avoid future imprisonment. The justice system of Bikini Bottom seems to have accepted that Patrick exists outside normal legal frameworks. His encounters with law enforcement follow predictable patterns. Police officers try to explain what Patrick has done wrong. Patrick nods and agrees without understanding. The officers eventually give up, recognizing the futility of trying to impose conventional order on someone who operates outside conventional reality. Patrick's innocence is so genuine that even the sternest authorities find it difficult to maintain anger toward him. The way Patrick processes language and communication deserves deeper exploration. He uses words, but his relationship with language seems tenuous. Words for Patrick are sounds that sometimes produce results, not carriers of specific meaning. He might use the same word to mean different things at different times, or different words to mean the same thing. His vocabulary remains limited not from inability to learn new words, but from recognizing no need for them. The influence Patrick has had on Bikini Bottom's culture over the years reveals itself in subtle ways. Phrases Patrick has coined in his confusion have entered common usage. His misunderstandings have become local legends. His approach to life has inspired philosophical movements that he remains unaware of. Patrick has become a cultural force without intention or awareness. Children in Bikini Bottom grow up knowing about Patrick, using him as a reference point for a certain type of existence. "Don't be such a Patrick" might be said to someone overthinking things. "That's very Patrick of you" might compliment someone's ability to find joy in simplicity. Patrick has become an adjective, a verb, a way of describing a particular approach to existence. The academic studies of Patrick that Sandy has attempted reveal the limits of scientific methodology when applied to something that exists outside scientific parameters. Her papers on Patrick are filed in a special category that might be labeled inexplicable phenomena. Other scientists who have attempted to study Patrick have reached similar dead ends, their instruments and theories inadequate to explain what Patrick is or how he functions. Yet Patrick continues to exist, indifferent to the mystery he presents. He does not know he is impossible, so he continues being possible. He does not understand that he should not function, so he continues functioning. His existence is its own explanation, requiring no justification beyond the simple fact that he is. The relationship between Patrick and the concept of identity presents fascinating paradoxes. Patrick seems to have no fixed sense of self, yet he is unmistakably himself at all times. He does not seem to distinguish between himself and others, yet maintains boundaries that define him as Patrick rather than someone else. His identity is both fluid and fixed, both absent and overwhelming present. When asked who he is, Patrick might forget his own name or confuse himself with someone else, yet his behavior remains consistently Patrick-like regardless of what he believes about his identity. This suggests that Patrick's identity exists not in his consciousness, but in something deeper, more fundamental than thought or self-awareness. The way others identify Patrick reveals how his presence affects perception. He is instantly recognizable not just by his appearance, but by a quality that surrounds him, an aura of Patrickness that announces his presence before he is seen. This quality cannot be defined precisely, but is unmistakable when encountered. It is the feeling of reality becoming slightly less real, of logic becoming slightly less logical, of the impossible becoming slightly more possible. Patrick's effect on time and space around him has been noted by careful observers. Clocks run differently in his presence, not faster or slower, but somehow sideways. Space seems to stretch and compress around him, making distances flexible and locations uncertain. These effects are subtle enough that most do not notice, but they contribute to the general sense of unreality that surrounds Patrick. The possibility that Patrick exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously might explain some of his more impossible characteristics. Perhaps the Patrick observed in Bikini Bottom is only one aspect of a larger Patrick that extends into dimensions beyond normal perception. This would explain his ability to appear and disappear, to survive the unsurvivable, to know things he should not know and forget things he should remember. His relationship with causality itself seems tenuous. Effects sometimes precede causes in Patrick's vicinity. He might react to something before it happens, or cause something that already occurred. This temporal confusion makes it difficult to track the actual sequence of events in Patrick's life. His biography is less a timeline than a collection of moments that may or may not have happened in any particular order. The way Patrick processes sensory information suggests perception operating on non-standard principles. He might hear colors, see sounds, taste emotions, or smell time. His sensory experience seems to involve synesthesia so extreme that conventional sensory categories cease to apply. This might explain his unusual reactions to stimuli and his ability to perceive things others cannot while missing things that seem obvious. His relationship with pain and pleasure follows no predictable pattern. Things that should hurt might bring him joy. Things that should feel good might distress him. His nervous system, if he has one in any conventional sense, seems to interpret signals randomly rather than consistently. This random interpretation protects him from sustained suffering, but also prevents him from learning through physical feedback. The question of whether Patrick experiences emotions as others understand them or something entirely different remains open. What looks like happiness might be something else entirely, something for which no word exists because no one else has experienced it. His emotional states might exist in spectrums invisible to others, experiencing feelings that have no names because they have never been felt by anyone capable of naming them. Patrick's influence on the laws of physics in his immediate vicinity has been documented but not explained. Objects fall differently around him. Liquids flow in patterns that should not exist. Solid matter becomes temporarily permeable. These violations of physical law are temporary and localized, suggesting Patrick exists in a bubble of alternative physics that moves with him. The possibility that Patrick is not a single being but a colony organism pretending to be individual has been proposed by some theorists. This would explain his regenerative abilities, his distributed consciousness, and his ability to survive damage that should be fatal. Each cell of Patrick might be capable of becoming a complete Patrick, making him essentially immortal through redundancy. Another theory suggests Patrick is a projection of collective unconscious, a manifestation of pure id given physical form. In this interpretation, Patrick represents desires and impulses that others suppress, living out the fantasy of existence without responsibility or consequence. His presence allows others to vicariously experience the freedom of being Patrick while maintaining their own structured lives. The mythology that has developed around Patrick in Bikini Bottom includes stories that may or may not be true. There are tales of Patrick accidentally solving unsolvable problems, of his presence during historical moments he should not have witnessed, of his image appearing in ancient cave paintings despite being not particularly old himself. These stories exist in the realm between fact and fiction, where Patrick himself seems most comfortable. Local legends speak of the time before Patrick arrived in Bikini Bottom, though no one can quite remember when that was or if such a time actually existed. Some say he has always been there, as permanent as the ocean floor itself. Others claim he arrived one day fully formed, emerging from beneath his rock as if he had always existed there. The truth, like most things about Patrick, remains unclear and perhaps unimportant. His role in major historical events of Bikini Bottom has been documented but remains controversial. Was Patrick really present at the founding of the city? Did he actually participate in the great jellyfishing expedition of ancient times? Historical records show evidence of a star-shaped figure at crucial moments. But whether this was Patrick, an ancestor, or someone else entirely cannot be determined. The children of Bikini Bottom tell stories about Patrick that their parents insist are not true, but cannot definitively disprove. They say if you knock on Patrick's rock 3 times at midnight, he will appear and grant you the gift of forgetting whatever troubles you. They claim that finding one of Patrick's forgotten socks brings 7 days of simple happiness. These childhood myths persist because they capture something essentially true about Patrick's influence. Patrick's relationship with language continues to evolve in ways that linguists find fascinating. He creates new words by accident, combining syllables in ways that should not work but somehow convey meaning. These Patrickisms enter the local dialect, enriching the language with concepts that did not previously exist. He has inadvertently contributed more to the local vocabulary than many intentional wordsmiths. The way Patrick interprets common phrases literally has led to numerous misunderstandings that have become legendary. When told to break a leg, Patrick has attempted to break his leg. When someone said it was raining cats and dogs, Patrick prepared for actual animals to fall from the sky. These literal interpretations reveal the arbitrary nature of figurative language while creating chaos that becomes community memory. His understanding of abstract concepts like justice, fairness, and morality operates on principles unique to Patrick. He has a strong sense of right and wrong that bears no relationship to conventional ethics. Something is right if it feels fun, something is wrong if it seems complicated. This moral system, while useless for governing society, contains a purity that more complex ethical frameworks lack. Patrick's sense of justice involves everyone getting what they want, which usually means ice cream. His solution to conflicts is to suggest everyone stop conflicting. His approach to fairness is that everything should be fair without any clear idea what fairness means. These simplistic approaches occasionally produce solutions that more sophisticated methods miss. The economic value of Patrick's presence in Bikini Bottom, while impossible to quantify, is certainly significant. Tourism increases when word spreads that Patrick might be visible. Scientists come hoping to study him. Philosophers arrive seeking to understand him. His mere existence draws attention and visitors to what might otherwise be just another underwater community. Local businesses have learned to account for the Patrick factor in their planning. Ice cream shops stock extra supplies. Furniture stores keep replacement items for things Patrick might accidentally destroy. The hospital maintains a special Patrick protocol for injuries that should be impossible. This adaptation to Patrick's presence has made Bikini Bottom's economy uniquely resilient. The psychological services industry has developed specific treatments for Patrick-related stress, mainly for Squidward. Therapists have written papers on the unique form of frustration that comes from dealing with someone immune to social feedback. Support groups exist for those who have tried and failed to explain something to Patrick. His presence has inadvertently created entire new fields of psychological study. Patrick's influence on education in Bikini Bottom can be seen in how schools have adapted their teaching methods. Teachers have learned that if something can be explained to Patrick, it has been truly understood. His presence in any classroom, however brief, forces educators to reconsider their assumptions about learning and intelligence. Some progressive educators use the Patrick method, which involves explaining things so simply that even Patrick might understand. The architectural influence of Patrick's rock home has inspired a minimalist movement in Bikini Bottom. Some residents have begun questioning whether they really need more than a rock and some sand furniture. This back-to-basics architectural philosophy, while not widely adopted, has influenced designers to consider the essential question of what constitutes a home. Patrick's approach to conflict resolution, which mainly involves not recognizing that conflicts exist, has been studied by diplomats and mediators. While his methods cannot be directly applied to complex negotiations, the principle of refusing to acknowledge problems sometimes causes them to resolve themselves. The Patrick Protocol for conflict resolution involves waiting to see if the conflict forgets to continue existing. His presence at sporting events adds an element of unpredictability that has become part of their appeal. Patrick might wander onto the field, unaware a game is happening. He might catch a ball meant for players or score points for the wrong team. Rather than ban him, sporting organizations have incorporated the possibility of Patrick interference into their rules, making games more exciting through potential chaos. The Patrick clause in insurance policies has become standard in Bikini Bottom. This clause covers damage that occurs through no malicious intent, but through the presence of someone who exists outside normal causality. Insurance companies have had to create new actuarial models to account for Patrick-related claims, which follow no statistical pattern. His influence on fashion in Bikini Bottom is subtle but present. The Patrick look, consisting of green shorts with purple flowers, has become a statement of anti-fashion fashion. Wearing such shorts signals a rejection of conventional style in favor of comfort and simplicity. Fashion shows have featured Patrick-inspired collections that celebrate the beauty of not caring about appearance. The scientific papers written about Patrick fill entire libraries, none reaching definitive conclusions. Titles include The Patrick Paradox, Existence Without Consciousness, Quantum Patrick, A Being in Superposition, and The Thermodynamics of Patrick, Energy Without Entropy. These papers advance various theories but ultimately conclude that Patrick cannot be explained within current scientific paradigms. Religious and spiritual movements have incorporated Patrick into their philosophies. Some see him as a holy fool, blessed with divine simplicity. Others view him as an avatar of chaos, necessary for balance in an ordered universe. A small cult believes Patrick is the key to enlightenment, that achieving his state of unthinking represents the ultimate spiritual goal. Patrick remains unaware of his theological significance. The Patrick meditation technique, developed by those seeking to emulate his mental state, involves deliberately forgetting each thought as it arises. Practitioners report achieving states of profound peace, though they cannot remember the experience afterward. This meditation practice has spread beyond Bikini Bottom, though its effectiveness cannot be measured since successful practitioners forget they meditated. His presence in group photographs creates interesting phenomena. Patrick often appears in photos he was not present for and disappears from photos he was definitely in. His image sometimes shows up multiple times in the same photo, or partially as if he exists in multiple states simultaneously. Photography experts cannot explain these Patrick-related photographic anomalies. The Patrick effect on electronic devices has forced technology companies to develop Patrick-proof products. Phones that work normally for everyone else malfunction in Patrick's hands. Computers crash in his presence. GPS systems give impossible directions when he is near. This technological incompatibility has led to specialized devices designed to function despite Patrick's reality-distorting presence. Local newspapers have a dedicated Patrick section, reporting on his activities with the seriousness typically reserved for politics or economics. Headlines include, "Patrick Forgets Own Birthday, Celebrates Anyway," and "Local Starfish Solves Traffic Problem by Not Noticing It." These articles are among the most read as residents find comfort in Patrick's consistent inconsistency. The Patrick Scholarship Fund, established by an anonymous donor, provides education for those who demonstrate Patrick-like qualities: exceptional simplicity, inability to retain information, and joy despite circumstances. Recipients of this scholarship often go on to achieve nothing measurable but report high life satisfaction. The fund continues to grow, suggesting someone values what Patrick represents. His sleep patterns have been studied by sleep scientists who hope to understand how someone can sleep 23 hours one day and 0 hours the next without apparent ill effects. Patrick's sleep seems less like rest and more like temporary non-existence, a state from which he emerges unchanged regardless of duration. His ability to fall asleep instantly in any position has inspired research into consciousness and its on-off states. The dreams Patrick reports having during his marathon sleep sessions describe worlds that should not be possible. He dreams of textures that have flavors, of numbers that have personalities, of concepts like underwater water and dry wetness. These dream reports have inspired artists and concerned psychologists in equal measure. Some theorists believe Patrick's dreams represent glimpses into alternate dimensions where different laws apply. Patrick's eating habits have revolutionized understanding of nutrition, mainly by proving that understanding is impossible. He survives on a diet that should be fatal, consuming things that are not food while ignoring actual food. His digestive system seems to operate on principles of wishful thinking rather than biochemistry. Nutritionists have given up trying to explain Patrick's continued existence despite his impossible diet. The sounds Patrick's stomach makes have been recorded and analyzed, revealing patterns that resemble no known biological process. Sometimes his stomach seems to be singing, other times it produces sounds that suggest complex mechanical operations. These stomach sounds have been sampled by experimental musicians who use them to create compositions that challenge conventional understanding of music. His body temperature fluctuates in ways that should be fatal, sometimes approaching the freezing point of seawater, other times reaching temperatures that would cook normal proteins. Yet Patrick shows no discomfort from these fluctuations, possibly because he does not notice them. His body seems to exist in a state of biological rebellion against the laws that govern other organisms. The Patrick diet, attempts by others to eat like Patrick, has resulted in numerous hospitalizations. What Patrick can consume without consequence proves toxic to others. This has led scientists to conclude that Patrick's digestive system operates on entirely different principles, possibly breaking down matter at a subatomic level or converting it to energy through unknown means. His bathroom habits, or lack thereof, present mysteries that biologists prefer not to contemplate. Patrick seems to consume without eliminating, violating basic principles of conservation of mass. Theories range from internal pocket dimensions where waste is stored to complete conversion of matter to energy. The truth remains unknown because Patrick cannot explain what he does not notice. The effect Patrick has on gardens and plant life follows no botanical logic. Plants near his rock grow in spirals that should not be possible. Seaweed develops colors that do not exist in nature. Kelp forests reorganize themselves in his presence, creating mazes that lead nowhere. Gardeners have learned to keep Patrick away from their plots unless they want interesting but inedible results. His interaction with pets and animals reveals interspecies communication operating outside known patterns. Animals understand Patrick in ways they do not understand others. He has conversations with creatures that do not normally communicate with anyone. These interactions suggest Patrick exists on a wavelength that transcends species barriers, though what is communicated remains mysterious. The way Patrick affects weather patterns has been documented by meteorologists who cannot explain it. Small weather systems form around him, creating localized conditions that differ from surrounding areas. It might be raining on Patrick while sunshine exists 3 feet away. These micro-weather events follow Patrick as he moves, creating a mobile climate zone that operates independently of larger patterns. His presence during storms adds chaos to already chaotic conditions. Lightning behaves differently around Patrick, striking in patterns that spell out words that make no sense. Thunder arrives before lightning in his vicinity. Rain falls upward. These violations of meteorological law are temporary but documented, adding to the file of Patrick-related impossibilities. The Patrick factor in urban planning has led to new approaches to city design. Planners now include Patrick zones, areas designed to accommodate someone who does not follow paths, obey signs, or recognize boundaries. These zones feature circular paths that lead back to themselves, signs that say nothing important, and boundaries that exist but do not restrict. The Patrick zones have become popular with children and philosophers. Traffic patterns in Bikini Bottom have evolved to account for Patrick's random wandering. Traffic lights include a Patrick phase, where all lights turn purple and everyone waits to see what Patrick will do. Roads include Patrick lanes that go nowhere but exist for him to wander in. These adaptations have actually improved traffic flow by segregating unpredictability from regular movement. The legal system has developed Patrick precedents, legal decisions based on cases involving someone who cannot understand law. These precedents essentially state that law does not apply to those who exist outside its conceptual framework. The Patrick defense, claiming Patrick-like ignorance of reality itself, has been attempted by others, but only works for Patrick himself. Patrick's testimony in court cases has become legendary for its complete uselessness. He cannot remember events, confuses himself with others, and provides evidence that contradicts itself within single sentences. Yet, judges allow his testimony because excluding it would require explaining why, and explaining Patrick has proven impossible. His presence in courtrooms adds an element of surreal chaos that sometimes reveals truth through confusion. The Patrick standard in contract law states that agreements with Patrick are non-binding because he cannot understand what he is agreeing to. This has protected him from exploitation, but also means he cannot enter into conventional agreements. His economic existence operates entirely on informal, moment-to-moment exchanges that somehow meet his needs without formal structure. Local historians have attempted to compile a comprehensive biography of Patrick, but the project faces insurmountable challenges. Patrick's own accounts of his past contradict each other, physical evidence of his history appears and disappears, and witnesses provide conflicting testimony about events they all witnessed. The biography remains permanently in progress, growing more confused with each edition. The oral history of Patrick, collected from Bikini Bottom residents, reads like mythology rather than biography. Each person remembers a different Patrick, though all describe the same being. These varied perspectives suggest Patrick exists differently for each observer, appearing as needed rather than as he is. This quantum existence makes objective biography impossible. Patrick's influence on literature includes several novels written about or inspired by him. These books sell well despite making no conventional sense. Readers report enjoying them without understanding them, experiencing emotions that have no names, and forgetting the plots immediately after finishing. The Patrick genre of literature has developed its own critical framework that evaluates books based on incomprehensibility and joy. Poetry about Patrick tends toward the abstract, using words in ways that prioritize sound over meaning. Patrick poems are performed rather than read, experienced rather than understood. They create emotional states in audiences that cannot be described in conventional language. These poems have revolutionized local poetry scenes, introducing chaos into what was becoming stagnant formalism. The Patrick Museum, dedicated to preserving artifacts of his existence, faces unique curatorial challenges. Objects associated with Patrick tend to disappear, transform, or cease existing when observed directly. The museum consists mainly of empty spaces where things related to Patrick should be. Visitors report finding the empty spaces more meaningful than conventional exhibits. His influence on music extends beyond his own anti-musical singing. Composers have written Patrick symphonies that use conventional instruments in unconventional ways. These pieces have no melody, harmony, or rhythm in traditional senses, yet audiences find them deeply moving. The Patrick movement in music challenges fundamental assumptions about what music is and what it can do. The annual Patrick Festival celebrates his existence with events that make no logical sense. Activities include competitive forgetting, where participants try to forget what they are doing while doing it. There are races that have no start or finish, contests with no rules or winners, and parades that go nowhere. The festival attracts visitors from across the ocean who come to experience organized meaninglessness. Patrick's influence on cuisine includes dishes inspired by his unusual consumption habits. Restaurants offer Patrick platters containing random combinations of edible and questionably edible items. The Patrick surprise menu changes not daily, but constantly, with each dish being whatever the chef finds first. These culinary experiments have led to some surprisingly successful combinations and many disasters. The Patrick method of food preparation involves no preparation at all. Raw ingredients are combined randomly and consumed immediately. While this approach has not caught on widely, some avant-garde chefs use Patrick techniques to introduce chaos into carefully planned meals. The results are unpredictable, but occasionally transcendent. His presence at restaurants creates unique challenges for staff. Patrick orders things not on the menu, forgets what he ordered, and sometimes eats things that are not food at all. Restaurants have developed Patrick protocols that essentially involve letting him do whatever he wants and charging SpongeBob later. This arrangement works because no one can figure out a better solution. The Patrick phenomenon in physics has led to new theoretical frameworks that attempt to incorporate his impossibilities. Patrick physics assumes that laws of nature are suggestions rather than requirements. This framework has no practical applications, but provides intellectual exercise for physicists tired of conventional reality. Papers on Patrick physics are published in a special journal that may or may not exist. His effect on time has led to the development of Patrick clocks that tell time in nonlinear ways. These clocks show not what time it is, but what time it feels like. They run backward, forward, and sideways, sometimes showing times that have not happened yet or never happened at all. Patrick clocks have become popular with people who want to escape temporal tyranny. The Patrick calendar follows no astronomical pattern, marking days that feel important rather than days that are important. Holidays occur when Patrick declares them, which might be never or constantly. This calendar has not been widely adopted, but serves as art pieces, reminding viewers that time is more flexible than they think. His influence on mathematics includes Patrick numbers, values that exist between other values in impossible ways. Patrick pi is a number that is sometimes 3, sometimes infinity, sometimes purple. Patrick equations balance despite having different values on each side. While Patrick math has no practical applications, it has inspired mathematicians to question fundamental assumptions about numerical reality. The Patrick theorem states that something can be true and false simultaneously if no one is paying attention. This theorem violates basic logic but seems to apply in Patrick's presence. Logicians have tried to disprove the Patrick theorem, but their proofs tend to prove it instead. The theorem remains controversial but undisputed. His presence in laboratories causes experiments to produce results that should not be possible. Control groups become experimental groups. Placebos develop real effects. Results change when reviewed. Scientists have learned to conduct Patrick's sensitive experiments in isolation from his influence, though some deliberately include him to explore the boundaries of possibility. The Patrick particle, theorized but never observed directly, would explain his ability to exist in multiple states simultaneously. This particle would have properties that violate known physics, existing and not existing at the same time. The search for the Patrick particle has consumed resources that could be used for practical research, but scientists cannot resist the mystery. His influence on technology continues to evolve as new devices encounter Patrick's reality-distorting presence. Artificial intelligence systems cannot process Patrick, returning errors that say "does not compute" in increasingly frustrated tones. Virtual reality systems create different realities for Patrick than intended, showing him worlds that the programmers did not create. The Patrick protocol in computer programming accounts for inputs that should not be possible but occur anyway. Programs include Patrick handling that essentially gives up trying to process certain types of illogical input. This has actually improved program stability by acknowledging that not everything can be processed logically. His presence on social media, when he briefly had accounts before forgetting passwords immediately, created paradoxes that platforms could not resolve. He would post things before typing them. His posts would change after being published. He gained and lost the same followers repeatedly. Social media companies have since developed Patrick filters that prevent reality-breaking posts. The Patrick phenomenon in quantum mechanics suggests that observation does not collapse wave functions in his presence. He exists in superposition constantly, being multiple things simultaneously without resolution. This has led to the Patrick interpretation of quantum mechanics, which states that reality is more flexible than previously thought. His effect on probability makes statistical analysis near him impossible. Unlikely events become certain. Certain events become impossible. Probability curves become probability pretzels, twisted into shapes that should not exist. Statisticians have learned to exclude Patrick from all models unless specifically studying Patrick-related phenomena. The Patrick constant, a value that changes every time it is measured, has become useful for describing systems that refuse to be consistent. This constant that is not constant appears in equations describing chaotic systems that transcend normal chaos. The Patrick constant has no fixed value but is somehow always correct. His influence on philosophy has created new schools of thought that embrace contradiction and meaninglessness as paths to truth. Patrick philosophy states that wisdom comes from not thinking about not thinking. These philosophical frameworks are impossible to study in conventional ways, but provide comfort to those overwhelmed by existence's complexity. The Patrick paradox poses questions that have no answers because the questions themselves make no sense. How can someone exist without thinking? How can someone survive without learning? How can someone be happy without understanding happiness? These paradoxes have inspired countless philosophical papers that conclude nothing but generate tenure for their authors. His presence in meditation centers creates states of consciousness that meditation masters cannot explain. People near Patrick achieve enlightenment without trying, then forget they achieved it. This temporary enlightenment that leaves no trace has forced reconsideration of what enlightenment means and whether it needs to be remembered to be real. The Patrick koan asks, "What is the sound of one Patrick thinking?" The answer is silence so complete it includes sound. This koan has driven meditation students to break through and break down in equal measure. Those who claim to understand it have not understood it. Those who do not understand it might have achieved Patrick-level consciousness. As we near the end of our long journey through the impossible life and lore of Patrick Star, we find ourselves changed by the exploration. We have examined every facet of his existence, from his rock home to his impact on quantum mechanics, from his friendship with SpongeBob to his influence on philosophy. Yet Patrick remains as mysterious as when we began, perhaps more so because we now know how much we cannot know. Patrick teaches us without teaching that existence does not require justification. He shows us without showing that happiness does not demand complexity. He proves without proving that intelligence is not the only path to wisdom. His life, if we can call it life in any conventional sense, stands as testament to the possibility of being without becoming, of existing without achieving, of mattering without producing. In Patrick's world, under his rock, surrounded by sand furniture that should not function but does, time moves differently, not faster or slower, but sideways, in directions we cannot perceive but can somehow feel when we think about Patrick. He has created, without intention or awareness, a space where the impossible becomes mundane and the mundane becomes impossible. His friendship with SpongeBob will continue forever because neither of them understands that things can end. They will have adventures that make no sense, solve problems that do not exist, and create memories that they will immediately forget, but somehow always remember. Their friendship transcends the boundaries of species, intelligence, and logic, existing in a space where love needs no reason and joy needs no cause. Patrick will continue to confuse Squidward, mystify Sandy, and bewilder Mr. Krabs. He will take jobs he cannot do, make friends who do not understand him, and spread chaos that somehow creates its own order. He will sleep when tired, eat when hungry, and laugh when happy, following rhythms that have nothing to do with clocks or calendars or any external measure of time. The residents of Bikini Bottom will continue to adapt to Patrick's presence, creating new protocols, new philosophies, and new ways of understanding someone who cannot be understood. Children will tell stories about him that are not true but feel true. Scientists will study him without learning anything except that learning is not always necessary. Philosophers will contemplate him without reaching conclusions except that conclusions are overrated. Patrick's rock will remain where it has always been, 2 doors down from a pineapple, marking a spot where reality becomes flexible. Inside, sand furniture will continue to exist in defiance of physics. A television made of sand will show programs that should not exist, and Patrick will sit in his sand chair, watching his sand television, perfectly content in his impossible life. Years from now, or perhaps yesterday because time means nothing in Patrick's world, someone will ask what Patrick contributes to the world. The answer will be nothing and everything, a paradox that Patrick embodies without understanding what paradox means. He contributes the possibility that life does not need to make sense to be worth living. He contributes the demonstration that happiness does not require comprehension. He contributes himself, which is both nothing and everything. The mystery of Patrick's intelligence will never be solved because it is not a mystery that wants solving. Whether his flashes of brilliance represent hidden depths or random neural firing does not matter. What matters is that Patrick continues to exist in his unique way, neither stupid nor smart, but something outside those categories entirely. He occupies a space in consciousness that has no name because naming would constrain it. His influence will continue to ripple outward in ways that cannot be predicted or controlled. People who have never met Patrick will be affected by ideas he accidentally created. Philosophies will develop from misunderstandings he generated. Scientific breakthroughs will come from studying his impossibilities. Art will be created inspired by his anti-aesthetic aesthetic. Patrick will remain unaware of his influence, which is perhaps why it remains so pure. The legend of Patrick's star will grow with each telling, becoming more impossible and more true simultaneously. Stories about him will contradict each other while all being accurate. He will become myth while remaining absolutely real, transcending the boundary between fiction and fact that constrains ordinary beings. Patrick exists in the space where stories become true through being told, where reality bends to accommodate narrative. Future generations will wonder if Patrick really existed, or if he represents something larger, a collective dream of freedom from thought and consequence. The answer will be both and neither, a Patrick answer that explains nothing while revealing everything. He is real because we have spent these hours exploring his reality. He is unreal because his reality operates on principles we cannot fully grasp. As our narrative draws to its close, we return to where we began, under a rock in the ocean where a pink starfish lives a life that should not be possible. Patrick Star, neither hero nor sage, neither fool nor genius, continues his existence moment by moment, unburdened by past or future, unconstrained by logic or law. He is perfectly himself, which is all anyone can be and more than most achieve. The sounds of the ocean continue around Patrick's rock. Water moves in eternal patterns. Fish swim by on their mysterious errands. And somewhere nearby, a square sponge is thinking of his best friend, planning an adventure that will make no sense and matter more than anything that does make sense. Patrick will answer when SpongeBob calls, not because he understands friendship, but because he embodies it. Tonight, or today, or whenever you are hearing this, Patrick Star continues to exist in his perfectly imperfect way. His story has no proper ending because Patrick does not understand endings. He simply continues, moment by moment, in an eternal present that extends backward and forward through time without ever actually moving. Under his rock, in his impossible home, Patrick Star remains himself, which is the only thing he knows how to be and the only thing he needs to be. The ocean continues its ancient rhythm. The rock remains in its place. the sand furniture maintains its impossible form, and Patrick Star, the starfish who should not be possible, continues to be possible through the simple act of not knowing he is impossible. In this not knowing, he achieves what knowing cannot achieve: perfect contentment in imperfect existence. Sleep now as Patrick sleeps, without worry about tomorrow or regret about yesterday. Let your consciousness drift like Patrick's, free from the burden of continuous thought. Dream of rocks that are homes, of furniture made of sand, of friendships that transcend understanding. Dream of Patrick Star, who lives to sleep and sleeps to live, whose existence proves that existence needs no proof, whose life demonstrates that life needs no demonstration. The waves continue, the rock remains, Patrick endures, and in his endurance, in his simple continuation, in his impossible possible existence, we find something like peace, not the peace of understanding, but the peace of accepting that understanding is optional, not the peace of achievement, but the peace of recognizing that achievement is arbitrary, not the peace of wisdom, but the peace of forgetting what wisdom means. And so we leave Patrick where we found him, where he has always been, where he will always be, under his rock, in the ocean, existing without explanation, continuing without purpose, being without becoming. Patrick Star, the starfish who forgot to be complicated, who never learned to be unhappy, who exists in defiance of logic and in harmony with something deeper than logic. The story ends where it began, which is to say, it does not end at all, but continues in a circle that Patrick would appreciate if he understood circles. Rest now, dream now, and somewhere in your dreams, perhaps you will find your own rock, your own sand furniture, your own perfect simplicity, and perhaps, for just a moment, you will understand what it means to be Patrick Star, which is to say, you will understand nothing at all, and in that nothing find everything you need.